Hello and welcome to the PowerFish podcast. I'm Ben.
And I'm Fish. Off camera, we have been talking about fat shaming and arguments with people who cannot think philosophically. So we kind of put a pause on that conversation so we could pick it back up. So to start, we were talking about Ben's friend and the conversation they had about fat shaming. So Ben, if you want to recap that conversation,
Yeah,
so
we were
start there.
I was talking about a frustration that I had with a gaming friend of mine, and he basically was just on the side of fat people aren't going to get any sympathy from him, and that kind of it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I understand it. Like, I told him just kind of in a joking way, like, frick, I'll fat shame as much as the next guy, but it's in a I'm never really serious about it, and he was like, actually, like, they're not getting any sympathy from him in a serious manner. And I was thinking, because I know he just didn't understand how out of their control it is.
Right.
I just, because I find, unless he did and just had a stupid opinion, but yeah, I tried to educate him on how not in control it is for these people. Like, at the end of the day, yes, do they have the ability to lose weight? Yes. Like, nobody disagrees with that. If they eat less, they will lose weight. It is simple as that. Sounds so simple, sounds so easy. But when you factor in that, like, the stomach size and the ability for the stomach to expand is genetic, and your metabolism, how much you burn, is genetic, and how satiated you feel as you eat is genetic, and your ability to stop eating past full, like, your willpower, is genetic. And it's just like, dude, there's really not a whole lot of room here to throw in just them being incompetent and stupid and just not wanting to lose weight. Like, there's really not very much room for that. Sure, can we find some people in the world that don't have all these genetic setbacks but is still this way? Sure. Maybe they could work on themselves a little bit, eat a little bit less, whatever. But the vast majority of people that are fat don't freaking want to be. Like, it's not like they're doing this on purpose.
Right.
So, but at the end, I mean, the conclusion basically just was, for him anyway, was just, yeah, but if it's always just willpower. Like, they could just not eat stuff, Like,
I mean, it comes down to,
he just doesn't
like,
understand.
It comes down to not only the genetics, but also the addiction part of it, which can be instigated by genetics.
Right.
It's like if you went to somebody who's addicted to drugs or addicted to alcohol, and you're just like, "Oh, just stop." Like, that's
right. Like,
you
are you
dummy?
like they don't want to be doing this. Like, yeah, when he said they're not getting any sympathy from me, and he ended the conversation with, well, I don't know if he ended it. I don't know where the conversation went, to be honest, but it ended with the conclusion of him basically just saying, yeah, well, it stops at the final, decider in the list of genetic predispositions is still willpower here. Him saying that just unlocks, like, okay, what other problems are directly related to willpower in the end that he wouldn't feel this way about? I bet drinking might be one of them, because he does drink. He would probably feel a little bit more sympathy to someone that got addicted to it. And it's like, yeah, that's just willpower too, I guess, if you're going to take his, reasoning through it.
That'd be like if you're hiking up a mountain,
or gambling for that matter.
If let's say for an illustration, you're hiking up a mountain and this your friend is over here on one side, got nothing on, maybe just a light backpack, and then you're over here on the other side, and you've got like a year's worth of clothes that you're hauling up this mountain. And and he's just like, you're getting no sympathy from me. It just comes down to willpower. Just get up the freaking mountain.
Yeah. We know you have the muscular strength and ability to do it. Just have the willpower, bro.
Exactly.
That simple. Like, yeah, just be David Goggins, the guy that runs like 20 miles a day until the cartilage in his knees has completely worn to shreds. So he's just jumping on his bone and still running. Yeah. No one that is a 1 in a billion willpower.
Right. I mean, have you ever watched, this is not a representation of fat people. This is an extreme case. But have you ever watched like My 600 Pound Life or a show like that?
Yeah, I've seen clips. I've never actually gone out to watch it.
It's great. Like it's easy to look at those people and be like, man, what are you doing? But when you kind of think
I would
about
say that's the majority of its watchers, probably.
Right. But when you really think about it, like these people, and there's a lot of like mental illness that goes into this also, but these people, a lot of them are still failing, even when faced with, you will be dead in 6 months or a year or something like that. And they're still not able to get it together. And it kind of, I see that and I'm like, this addiction is so ingrained in their everyday habits. Like it's difficult for them not eating 3 dozen donuts or whatever they eat. Not eating those donuts is the same thing as completely uprooting their entire lifestyle.
Right. It's on top of all the genetic setbacks that might be present. There's also habit breaking. If you built a habit this way, whether it be through just happenstance of you started a habit of eating too much food, or it started because something traumatic happened in your life and food is a cope for a lot of people, that's a tough thing to break.
Yeah.
Habits are tough to break, even if it's something that's way less detrimental and way less sort of ingrained within your day-to-day. Even stuff like that is hard to break. Like, dude, if I had tried to break the habit of looking in the fridge when I'm hungry, knowing there's nothing in that sumbitch, I would be a changed person. But I don't stop doing that. Like, yeah.
On the subject of habits, so I don't know if you and I talked about this, but I talked with some people at work about this, and then my family a little bit too over the last several weeks, about, at least with my family and a lot of people I know's family, growing up in the 2000s, it was common in the household to have the children not be able to get up from the dinner table unless they finished the food.
Yep. I've that wasn't a custom in my house, but it was in a lot of the houses that my friends at the time lived.
Yeah, so like we were talking, so my mother, not to air the family business, but my mother has said gastric bypass surgery and still is maintaining a very healthy weight now, but it took years and years to get to that point. And then her mother, my grandmother, also struggles a little bit with weight, not to the same degree, but a little bit. And we were, all three of us were talking about it, about this whole, it's an expectation to finish the food. It's an expectation to eat what is provided.
Mm-hmm.
And about how that really ingrains the wrong mindset. When it comes to
I really don't think that that's a good tradition to keep going.
It's not. Like I said, I don't plan on having children, but if I did, I mean, that would not be in there. It would be more along the lines of eat until you're
done. Eat till you're filled.
Eat until you are satiated.
Right.
And then go do whatever you want. You know, if we got leftover food, put it in the fridge. You can come back later if you need to. Shoot. I mean, that's not, who cares about that? I don't know where that mindset comes from. I hope that it's going away.
Well, I would say it probably comes from the fact that food used to not be abundant from,
Yeah.
you know, many, 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 many thousands of years ago. If you didn't eat everything you had and you left like that, just you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that. If you had excess food, you eat the son of a gun and store it
Well,
as fat.
shoot. I mean, even not only thousands of years ago, but even like pre 1960s, 1950s. That was
Right. Even just then,
even
even a
then.
couple hundred years ago, food is not as everywhere and as calorie dense and quite so ubiquitous as it is today. So yeah, I feel like, and the blast radius of that is still happening today. I do think that it will dissipate eventually. I really hope that that's not a thing that we. I kind of think our generation might. I don't know if I've ever met anyone of my age that is kind of like that. That would take offense to food that they're providing that didn't get
Yeah, it's
all of.
you hear that a lot from like people 40 and up, I think.
Right. I think it's we're nearing the edge of the mushroom cloud here from this explosion.
This nuclear disaster that we
Yeah.
have here.
Yeah.
The obesity epidemic.
Yeah, it's not because you can get a 1,000 calorie slice of cheesecake from your county market freezer, but it's because mother is telling you to eat your plate. Yeah, that's what's causing the epidemic. Yeah, on the topic of people just being satisfied in a parochial mindset and not philosophically expanding their sort of view on things. There's a couple of just recent stories of just this very thing that we're talking about. One of them was consciousness, right? We haven't talked about that very much, but it's this thing that is interesting and a mystery. The Sam Harris, also a guy, we've never talked about him or anything he's talked about, his wife, Annika Harris. We've also talked about her whole research for the the latter half of her life, 20 years plus, has been on consciousness. And she wrote a book called Consciousness, which was a short book, and she recently just released a new book called Lights On that is going to be read by me soon. And there was an interview. Chris Williamson, one of my favorite podcasters, the guy that inspired me to suggest this at the very least, had Annika Harris on to talk about consciousness, and I was like, oh my god, this is a dream episode for me. And they're talking about consciousness, right? And there was a comment on his video saying that it appears Annika is getting consciousness confused with awareness.
Huh.
As if the random commenter is saying that the thing that this woman has been researching for 20 years, she's just a little bit confused on. Yeah. Brother, do you not think for a moment that maybe you're the one that's got it a little confused here? Just maybe. Right. Does that thought not cross the mind? The expertise of the person that you're commenting about and your expertise, and you saying that they are confused about something so basic.
Yeah, I feel like you see that a lot with people. It's just like this whole, that doctor doesn't know what they're talking about. I think I would know what my body is doing. That kind of stuff. That whole ignoring the expertise and
right,
inserting your own idea.
like we have expertise, like these people. I get COVID kind of shattered the trust of institutions. I understand that for good reason, but it's so bad still. The trust in expertise, it's detrimental. Like doctors and vaccines. I'm pretty sure anti-vaxxers have never been more ubiquitous than, I say ubiquitous. Anti-vaxxers aren't ubiquitous, but I'm pretty sure the group of them is bigger than it ever has been. And like I said, big part of that is the COVID vaccine.
Isn't there some sort of disease that's coming back now because of that? I read this the other day.
I wouldn't be surprised. Kids aren't being vaccinated as much. I've seen stories of like just what you're saying, like a smallpox or something has come back in some area.
Was it the mumps? Is that what I saw? Measles? It's health.com. 4 ancient diseases that are on the rise once again. Mumps,
That's a
measles,
uplifting article.
Tuberculosis, and the scarlet fever.
I don't even know what that is.
I don't know what that is.
Regardless, it's the fact that anti-vaxxing is on the rise is just truly sad. It's like, listen to the people that have spent 8 years plus getting doctorate and PhDs on these things.
What's the thought process? Walk me through that if you understand it at all. What is the thought process of an anti-vaxxer?
You're asking a lot of me here. If I understand it at all, I feel like I can.
Is there a thought?
Is there a way to understand it, and is there a thought process?
Is it like, because I hear all the time. We live in not rural but smaller town Midwest. I hear a lot of old rednecks say stuff like, "Oh, they're putting chemicals, the bad chemicals in the shots and the flu shots, and they're gonna kill you or something, or they're spying on you or whatever." Like, people say that, but is there like a not incredibly stupid reason?
Oh, I think, well, specifically in relation to vaccines and medical trust, like I said, I don't think COVID really helped any of that, because the COVID vaccine, there was just so much information that was incorrect, getting pushed all over the place, and then new information that came out a day after it, correcting it, that was still wrong, and being told the wrong thing, that the vaccine like doesn't prevent spreading. All it does is like dampen mortality rates and stuff. And it wasn't clear that was the only thing it did. Falsely advertised. Like, I get that COVID shattered a lot of trust for that, but I don't. Even before that, what you're talking about was still a thing. You go to some random, probably 55-plus-year-old's house, and they're gonna think some probably pretty crazy things. Like,
do you remember? At least I heard this. Do you remember when they were going around saying that there were like microprocessing chips in the COVID vaccines? Did you ever hear that?
I don't think I was on that one. No,
I heard that. I heard that
What?
there was like there's some like digital something that they said was going in the vaccines that was gonna like be able to, or maybe it was trackers. I don't know, something like that. I remember hearing that in this town, and people were genuinely like, "I don't know if it's in there, but I'm gonna not get it in case there is." It's
taking like actually applying,
like genuinely considering like. I bet you the government wants to put a tracker in you, and this is the best time to do it because everybody's got to get it. That kind of mentality. It's like because everybody has to get it, that means this is the time that they're going to sneak it into you.
Right.
That was the mentality.
Yeah, I didn't hear that, but I can't say I'm surprised completely, honestly. Yeah,
Forgot that happened till just now.
that's absolutely ludicrous. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the thought process, and I really don't think there is one. I don't think there is. I think they are headline readers. I don't think there is much critical thinking happening, and I think they just regurgitate. In fact, to some degree, in just anecdotally, they definitely just regurgitate headlines. Because
yeah,
I have been the recipient, unfortunately, of random political complaints before, and I ask into it, and they don't know what to say most of the time. There was an example. What was it? I think it was. Shoot, I can't remember what it was, but it was something related to shipping. Like, we were talking about Temu and Shein and the cheap junk sellers. And I think it was along the lines of they were shipping stuff in, and then we were spending like extra money to like ship it back somewhere else and then ship it back to the US. Something just astoundingly stupid related to overseas shipping. And he said that to me, complaining about it, and I'm like, that can't be right. That just makes no sense. That surely not. That can't be right, because I actually think about the ramifications of things when they're said to me. And I looked at him and I said, why are they doing that? And he said, well, I mean, that's just what's happening. That's what the US is doing, you know?
It just is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, at that moment, I knew it's like, oh, okay, this is a nothing conversation. And then I just proceeded to be like, oh, really? Is that what they're doing? What? Yeah, that's crazy. How stupid. And I just kind of went along with it, because I'm not interested in making a fool of him. But I really do think that it's just headline regurgitation in a lot of the cases, and they don't, for some reason, this is something I'm really not sure on. For some reason, they don't give it more thought or investigate further. Like, even if it's something like time related, not investigating further, sure. If you don't want to investigate further into it, don't. But don't go around and I have another perfect example of this. Literally 2 days ago, a coworker, me and a coworker started talking about, he was a Christian. I can't remember how this happened, but he got wind that I was an atheist, and he just came up to me and says, like, you know, why are you an atheist? And I said, well,
why you do that?
Yeah, why you do that? And because unfortunately, it's the minority in the U.S. So he said, well, like, why are you an atheist? I was like, well, I guess, why are you a Christian? First, we'll start with that. And he said, he gave his reasons, and we got onto the topic. He said, like, yeah, evolution is just like, that's all proven to be nonsense, and it doesn't make any sense. And it was clear he was in debate mode, looking for retaliation. So I was like, okay, well, what doesn't make sense about it? And he, believe it or not, the guy that is talking about evolution is not the guy that isn't going to do the thinking, and you'll see that in a moment. But he was talking about how evolution, like, it doesn't make sense. And he's like, yeah, man, and the missing link, and like the eye could not, it's irreducibly complex, and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. I didn't really press him on it, but I did ask, so how old do you think the universe is? What's your opinion on the age of the earth and stuff like that? And he's like, well, I actually believe in the age stuff, because he is into like ancient architecture. Like Göbekli Tepe is like a 14,000-year-old structure from a civilization that we barely know anything about, and stuff like that. So he's into things that are obviously older than 6 to 10,000 years old.
Mm.
But he's not. This is fascinating to me. It's not often you find someone that is on board with the age of the Earth and the universe, but not on board with evolution. That's a less commonly held stance, because if they believe in the age of the universe and stuff, obviously they do agree with some scientific, findings and some scientific stuff. They don't think it's just all nonsense of experts that don't know what they're talking about. Which you would think would follow from that is the overwhelming evidence for evolution. But it just didn't. It didn't for some reason. So anyway, I asked him that question, and he said he believes in like old universe and stuff. And I asked him, it's like, okay, so what do you think about like Australopithecus, which is a fossil that we have found of a very almost identical human bone structure and a very obviously ape skull. So, and that's just one example. There's another example called Australopithecus alfarensis, which has been nicknamed to Lucy, who was of the similar time period. So we have, I know creationists like to say the fossil record doesn't show evolution, but it definitely does. Another one, Archaeopteryx, is a obvious, just blatantly obvious fuse between a dinosaur and a bird. Like, I say fuse, but it's not a fuse.
So when people say they don't believe in evolution, what exactly are they denying? I'm curious, because I haven't really put a ton of thought into this, as in like what evolution deniers actually believe. Because like,
well, let's talk about that. But I haven't even gotten to the main point of the story.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that, because I do think that's an interesting question. So I was talking about the age of the Earth and the age of the universe, and I mentioned like, yeah, we're capable of radiometric dating. Like, we can carbon date stuff. And he was like, yeah. And then another random guy in the FedEx station walks by. It wasn't a part of this conversation before in any way whatsoever, but he walks by and says, yeah, but how many times has that been proven wrong? In response to me saying we're capable of radiometric dating. And I just looked at him and it was like, I had to comprehend where this guy came from, first of all. I looked at him and I said, a hell of a lot less times than it's been proven right. And he just kind of looked at me like, and then he walked away. That was his whole response. That's the guy that I brought this story up for.
Okay.
Because that was a headline regurgitation. He saw 1 or 2 or 3 examples of radiometric dating bringing back a bad result. And he was like, ha! Got him. Yeah. It doesn't work. Case closed. And he just regurgitated it. Because I knew that's what he did. And that's why I kind of gave just that stupid response. Because, like, it's ridiculous. If you have a computer and your computer glitches, you don't throw the computer away and say it doesn't work. Like, there are mistakes that happen with anything, almost anything. And when it comes to something as hotly debated as religion versus the age of the universe, obviously the mistakes that happened are going to get plucked and exacerbated to, an infinite degree. So that's the guy I brought that up for. But in answer to your question on what exactly they're denying in evolution, I think it's what they are denying is just the concept of it at all. Because if, they try, people that don't believe in evolution, they try to argue against it via logic and evidence and things like, oh yeah, the fossil record doesn't show it, even though I just named 3 huge fossil evidence records for it. They try to argue against it with evidence and logic, but here, let me finish this thought. I don't think they're actually coming from a position of sincerity when they talk about that, because you will be hard pressed to ever find someone that doesn't believe in evolution because of evidence and logic and science that isn't a creationist. If they truly did not believe evolution because of logic and science and reasoning and evidence, then there would be a lot of people that also are not creationists. But there isn't. It's the reason they don't believe it is because they have an ulterior motive. That is why.
So like, and I'm going to ask this question, and then this might just be me showing ignorance because maybe I don't understand what I'm talking about. Can we not see evolution in our everyday life? Because like
we can.
Like let's take a dog as an example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, since the beginning of time, a pit bull hasn't been what that is, or a corgi or something.
You know, a poodle's never occurring in in nature.
100,000 years ago, there wasn't a poodle walking around. That's right. So like you could just see
Chihuahua.
that. Okay, so like we had, the canine species going back. And over time, it adapts, and then to the environment, and then obviously a lot of it's selective breeding. But even the fact that selective breeding can produce a result shows that the fact that two different kinds of things are mating and creating an offspring can shift the entire identity going forward for that particular branch of that species.
Right. That
is evolution.
Well, I also think they just don't understand how simple it really is, because everyone would agree that what they call microevolution, which is what you just described, is a thing. Because, like you just said, I think like a few thousand years ago, there was like 30 or something dog species, and now there's over like 200, and that's all us. So and like the Galapagos Islands, and which is the island that Darwin was most influential into Darwin even coming up with the theory, was the vast amounts of variety on the Galapagos Islands, mainly in the finch. Famously named Darwin's finches. There's like, I don't know, 20 or 30 something different types of finches on this one island that are very clearly and obviously suited for the environment of that very island, not everywhere else. They are suited for their environment very clearly.
That's a big thing when it comes to evolution, is not only with breeding, like we were just talking about, just the adaptation to your environment. Right. And how a certain animal in a certain region that's warmer could move to an area that is cooler and live there long term, and their physical properties will change over time to adapt to that cooler environment. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah, literally. And I just think the concept of just how simple that really is, a lot of really small changes makes a big change. It's really that simple. Yeah, it really is. And I don't know. I think hundreds of millions of years is also that's even tough for me to get my head around. Like, yeah, we have been able to, obviously, in the last several thousand years, we've been able to make changes as large as from a Mastiff to a Chihuahua. So just imagine the kind of changes over 10,000 times that duration, except instead of us selectively breeding, it's natural selection killing the things that don't have the right genetics. Like, that's a really, in my opinion, a really easy concept to understand. Hard to like grasp because that's a long time. A lot of time happens in between there. And we still are born with genetics from previous ancestors. Being born with an extra little part on your spine that sticks out as a tail is a thing. It's because we used to have tails. And luckily we can just remove that with surgery right after birth easily now, but it happens. That genetic data still exists because we're a half a chromosome away from a monkey. So it's really, really, really hard for me to think. I guess it's not really hard for me to think because I also was a young Earth creationist that thought evolution was a sad, pitiful, just desperate attempt at people that weren't Christians to explain our existence. I thought it was just a desperate attempt, and it's really not.
But how much of that was just because that's what you were told?
It's because it's exactly that. People in the church, creationists are so good at making it sound so ridiculous to believe in.
Yeah, dude, they're the ultimate gaslighters. That's worth
it. In that respect, yeah, like they really make it sound so stupid to believe something like that. And then you look at, everything that's around us through the eyes of skepticism for once, and you're like, actually, this kind of makes sense. It makes sense for a lot of the actions we have that don't make sense if we were created out of a whim.
Yeah.
But the thing is, evolution, I think Christianity and religion in general is sort of being beaten into submission with like a slow motion car crash with modernity in respect to evolution, because there are a lot more Christians that are finally coming around to the inevitability of it, the same way they did with going from geocentrism to heliocentrism.
I was just about to say that it's you see that a lot in the church now. I think when it comes to like a couple hundred years ago, we'll say, you get into your church, and obviously church is such a huge part of the culture now, and especially then, you get into your church and it's an echo chamber, and you don't really have yet the scientific, not only knowledge in general, but also the accessibility of scientific understanding that we do now. And I think you're right. I think people are being forced to be confronted with something like evolution in the church. And I would be really curious to know how the church is going to adapt with that more available access.
Something like a non-denominational church. I think non-denominational churches have, like, the guys that you brought up in a previous episode, Cliff and Stuart Clonectley. Right. Like they know science. They believe in evolution. They have a church. It's a non-denominational church. But I think the way that they're adapting is they just kind of don't talk about it.
Yeah, which, I mean, that's, I guess, better than being wrong, but...
Right.
Yeah. Is that really a good solution? Oh, no.
Oh, it stopped the recording.
All right, hold on.
We're back. But yeah, I think, like I said, it's the church is slowly coming to the inevitable evidence of that evolution definitely did happen. Unless your answer's in Genesis, they are never going down.
Yeah.
They are going to be eradicated before they say evolution ever happened and the earth is older than 10,000 years. But Yeah, I think the solution is just they just don't really talk about it because it really is complicated in some ways to reconcile it with the Book of Genesis. There is quite a bit that needs to be kind of delved into to reconcile it smoothly, and I don't think people are going to want to start an entire like 10-week church sermon series on evolution and trying to merge it with the Book of Genesis without bumps and cracks.
I had a mean thought. My thought when you said that was they're not going to want to do it. And I was just like, yeah, but because people are going to pay them tithe money anyway. Why should they? Why should they feel? Right. Why should they feel compelled to be challenged or to acknowledge a challenging theory whenever they're going to have people coming in the church paying them money anyway? But that's a negative view on churches, and that's not all churches.
Not all churches are like that. If you're who's that guy? Kenneth Copeland? If you're Kenneth Copeland, is it Kenneth Copeland?
That
Daniel
sounds familiar.
Copeland? Robert Copeland?
I'm taking Copeland.
It's Copeland, I know.
What does he do?
He's a megachurch pastor.
Kenneth.
That is
Kenneth Copeland.
Kenneth Copeland.
Okay, this guy's the oldest person I've ever seen in my life. Wow.
Yeah. Dude, that guy will take all your tithes and he will use it on his private jets. That's one of those.
What's the other guy? There's a guy that's younger than this, another guy that's like that. And I've personally made fun of him on this podcast, and I don't remember his name.
Is he a guy that wears like Jordans? Insanely expensive Jordans?
He might.
Up on stage.
What is that? What is the guy that I'm thinking of? Oh, yeah. I just had it. Oh my God. I just happened upon this website, and it's really interesting. So it's 8 of the richest pastors and televangelists.
Woo!
Oh my God.
This is gonna be crazy. Like, did they read the book that the verse that says it's easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into the kingdom of heaven?
Let's just it'd be really quick. Let's just go through these. T.D. Jakes. He's 66 years old.
T.D. Jakes.
Never heard of him. Estimated net worth $20 million.
Oh my God.
We got Rick Warren, 25 million. Creflo Dollar?
That doesn't sound like a real name.
That's what it says here. 30 million.
Holy
Andy Stanley, somewhere between 40 and 45 million. This is a guy I used to follow back in the day. Stephen Furtick. Stephen Furtick was a guy I used to follow. He apparently is worth $60 million.
Oh my God. Dude, for preaching on Sunday morning. Holy cow.
We're in the top 3 finalists here. Number 3, we got Benny Hinn with also 60 million. This is the guy I was looking up. So Joel Osteen. That was the guy I was looking up.
Joel Osteen, yeah.
Yep, that was the guy I was looking up. $100 million.
Oh my God.
And then we got Kenneth Copeland at
He's the top?
$300 million.
Oh my gosh, dude! For that kind of money, okay, God, He's my Savior, Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I'm following Him now. If I can get that kind of money out of it, holy frick! Are you kidding me?
I'm gonna get one of those. I'll get one of those bumper stickers I've seen. I don't know if this is even a common thing, but I've seen it in town. There's a lady in town that has a bumper sticker that says "Jesus is my boyfriend." I'll get one of those for $300 million.
Oh my God! Bro. For that, that's crazy. Yeah. Okay. Man, I knew Kenneth Copeland was balling off his ass, but not that much. That's insane. Holy crap! And you know that the way they justify it, the way these pastors justify it, is that this money helps them evangelize further. I've heard that before. More money allows them to fly a private jet to Guatemala, and preach or something like that.
Have you
Holy
ever seen
frick.
Kenneth Copeland's home?
No, but I've seen his eyes, and he looks like the devil.
Oh my goodness. Let me send. I'm gonna send you this. We'll throw it up on screen. We're gonna dox this guy.
It's clearly public information.
Look at this guy's house.
Oh my God! What? Dude! That's crazy!
Could, like, that's huge. I don't even know what's the state of that.
There's half of his net worth. What the frick?
Oh my good Lord.
Why do people go? Does no one that go to this guy's services like question this? This is insane.
That'd be the only thing I'd be thinking about. Oh my goodness, this guy's got a huge house.
Why the heck? Like, when you pass the basket at Kenneth Copeland's super mega church, I don't even know I'm assuming it's a mega church.
Yeah, probably.
But when you pass the tithing basket, do you not think, the money that I'm putting into this basket is 0.000000001% of this guy's left nut? Like what are you? Man,
that's insane.
I unboxed something. Bring Kenneth Copeland up. That is insane. Doesn't he just look evil?
Yeah, he looks like yeah. He looks like
he looks evil. Like
other than being the oldest man I've ever seen, he looks like he loves the fact that he is taking money out of people's pockets for his own pockets.
That's
because like crazy. What? Okay, here's my next question, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe there's more things here. I mean, clearly, you know, I'm sure this dude knows a little bit about business, and maybe he's investing or something. But like, you would think that if you are a soldier of God, right? You are an evangelist, right? I'm not saying you got to give everything onto your last dime, but you would think that you would be investing the money you earn by being an evangelist into the church more than this guy because he's got the biggest house I've ever seen.
He could buy 50 churches across the world for the price of his house.
Like, I'm not saying you know, it's easy to talk crap on rich people, and we've talked about how we try not to do that to an extent. But like, there's a difference between a wealthy businessman who is able to afford luxury items and they buy luxury items, and somebody who makes money off of people's faith, people's whole identity, people's
people thinking that they're giving this money for the sake of the growth of their religion. Tithing, giving to God. They think they're giving this money to the church. They think that's what tithing is.
Do you know what the purpose of tithing is? And again, this is just my speculation and what I've been told growing up in the church. But the purpose of tithing is that because the church, in order to give, because the church's priority is to give, the purpose of tithing is to fund the church to be able to give more. Because the church, by definition, if no tithing exists, would run at a deficit.
Yeah.
That is the purpose of tithing. So the church doesn't have to run at a deficit. And then you got Kenneth Copeland's house.
That doesn't look like a deficit to me. That looks like a surplus times a million. That's so crazy. Oh my God. Yeah. Listen, I mean, like we said, hating on rich people because they are rich is not our thing. But when you're an evangelist Christian and your source of income is people's, basically what you said, you described it perfectly. There's actually on Reddit, there's this video. I don't know if anybody listening to this has ever been on Reddit, but holy frick, if you are extremely far left like so far left that you can't even see the center with a telescope. Reddit is the perfect place for you because that is most of its users. There was a post about a guy's wedding. It was a billionaire, his wedding, and it was like this multi-million-dollar wedding. Like there was clearly a couple $1 million or more spent on this wedding. There was a lot of people, just extravagant. Like I'm pretty sure they rented the freaking Great Pyramid of Giza.
Good Lord.
Which is crazy. And they had like superstars to sing there. And clearly, and they just, the guests, it was a hell of a time for the guests, not just the bride and the groom.
Yeah.
And a video of it was posted on Reddit. And dude, the comments railing this guy for setting up a super wedding was insane. Everybody's saying like they are comparing this guy to the lowest scum on the bottom of your freaking shoe. Like saying that he could be spending his money on literally anything else. Anything would be better than this. You don't need such a huge wedding. And I'm thinking like this billionaire could be donating more than every single one of these commenters' yearly salaries every single day to various charities. He could be doing that right now and still not see his bank account move. And these people that don't even know who the guy is are commenting this? Are you serious? Like this, and on the topic of the price of the wedding, it's a few $1 million, sure. If I have $1 billion, let's put this into perspective. A few $1 million to a billionaire. If I have $1,000, that is the equivalent of me spending a few bucks out of my 1,000. Yeah. That is how much that, and these people are acting like he blew everything he has on this wedding. Like, let the guy have a memorable day for all of the wedding's guests and his wife. Are you serious? Like,
yeah. It's like, I don't think anybody's arguing that the wedding is overboard. Like it's
sure. Yeah.
It's, extravagant and overly luxurious, or overly is a relative term here. But you got a guy who's a billionaire. It's not like he's going to spend a couple $1,000s on his wedding.
Right.
Either. On the other side, obviously, maybe he spent too much compared to the average Joe. But at the same time, somebody that's a billionaire is just not going to spend what a normal person would spend on a normal wedding.
No.
Because that's just not, like, why would you not?
I bet you everyone that attended the wedding had a hell of a good time.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
for the amount of money that this guy would not even notice. Like,
it's so easy to say, like, well, they should be giving that to charity. And maybe this guy does give to charity. We don't
That's
know.
what I was saying. He could be giving millions to charity that also wouldn't even move his bank account. And these people wouldn't even know it, but they're going to shit on him anyway.
I don't know, man. Like I'm not going to lie and say that I hear that and part of me doesn't go like, ugh. But also, I'm not a billionaire. So
right.
I guess there's also that part of it.
When you say you're going to spend like 0.1% of your money on a wedding, who's going to say, oh my gosh, that's so ridiculous. Why would you spend that much? It's like,
yeah,
look at this in perspective here. Just try. And I could be spending 0.5% of my money on a new charity every single day, and it would outweigh what every single Reddit commenter on this post could donate in an entire year.
Yeah.
Like, But no, they're gonna. That's why, like that hating the rich thing is definitely a far left sort of view, and you could definitely tell these people were on that view. Reddit, like I said, Reddit is a. You don't want to be on some subreddits because they are just fueled.
There are some really good ones.
There are some really good ones, absolutely, but a large part of Reddit is extremely liberal.
And I mean, if you wanted to find, if you're like, let's say you're a conservative minded person and you wanted to find your corner of Reddit, there's r/conservatives. I mean, or whatever
Right.
it is, something like that. I remember telling a friend of mine who didn't have Reddit. I told him about Reddit, and they were just like, "Oh, isn't that for like stupid idiots?" And I was like, "No, like
They think it's like 4chan."
Yeah, they think it's like a 4chan stupid, and nothing's going to apply to them. It's like, I mean, don't use Reddit if you don't want to use Reddit. It is kind of a cesspool in a lot of ways, but there's something for everybody on there. But I would say, yeah, at least the subreddits that I frequent.
People holding beers.
Oh yeah, before we were just looking at Reddit before we started, and what was it called? It was
I was into the Reddit search bar. I just typed shower because I was trying to find r/shower thoughts, and one of the thing that came up was like shower beer gone wild. Shower beer's gone.
Shower beer gone wild.
Yeah. Shower beer gone wild, and it was an NSFW subreddit, so I assumed it was porn of some sort. And then you actually looked at it.
So I was like, I gotta see what this is. And so literally the whole subreddit. This is the whole idea of the subreddit. It's just people standing in usually showers, holding a beer, and they're naked because they're in a shower, and that's it.
There's
whatever
you said,
there's
a sub for everybody, including that.
I don't know who that's for, but
I mean, somebody. It exists. It's for somebody.
Oh, I didn't look. That's a good question. How many people does that have?
Oh man, let me guess.
Yeah, guess for me.
40K.
95K.
Whoa! There's almost 100,000 people.
Almost 100,000. Wow.
Wanting to look at naked people holding
here.
beer.
Okay, this is interesting.
Holy cow!
Well, okay, it's not that interesting because Shower Girls has 475,000, but there's just shower not safe for work.
Shower.
That has 4 less thousand people than Shower Beer gone wild. For some reason.
So the beer adds more than no beer. That's the
lesson you should take away from today.
Yeah,
beer is better than no beer.
Yep. When you're looking at naked,
from two people that don't drink very much.
Right. Yeah. But hey, we'd probably have the willpower to stop.
Exactly.
Well, we're nearing an hour, so we'll get to the end here. But there's a funny stat that I heard through a grapevine. So take this with a grain of salt. When it comes to female disattraction,
okay,
when they are attracted to you but no longer are, something that happens that stunts that. Did you know, according to a poll that I can't name because I heard it from somebody that didn't name it, cheating on your girlfriend, this is specifically male to female, cheating on your girlfriend is less detrimental for their attraction to you than not protecting them in the face of danger. If someone jumps and pulls a gun on you, if you do nothing or hide behind them, that hurts their attraction to you even more than if you cheat on them. I thought that was kind of funny.
That is kind of funny.
On average. I will
On
say
average.
that. On average.
I mean, there is kind of an expectation in relationships that a man is supposed to be a protector of sorts. Not all relationships, but certainly a good portion of relationships. The man kind of steps into a protector role in certain situations.
Right.
That is interesting compared to cheating, because you'd think that would be an instant no.
I was going to say, yeah.
Granted, you hear a lot of, well, I say you hear a lot of, I have heard of a lot of women who remain with cheaters just because. I don't know why they do that, but
well, in the very same source that I heard this statistic from, what was it? If you're a man and you cheat on a woman, the best way to reconcile is by saying, I didn't actually love them. It was just a pure sex. Like, I didn't really like them. I had no feelings for them. That's the best way to reconcile. And this is not advice, by the way. If it's the other way around, if it's woman cheats on the man, the best way to reconcile it was, this. I mean, I didn't even enjoy the sex. Like, the sex was, I didn't do it. Like, it wasn't for the, like, it sucked. Sex with you is 1,000 times better. That's how to reconcile it.
Putting myself in that position, that would make me feel better.
It would, wouldn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I'd still be mad, but like, I'd be like, all right, okay.
Yeah.
All
if
right.
they said, yeah, I felt loved from him and I haven't felt that from you in a while, but it had nothing to do with sex. That's it. That's the best way to reconcile.
I think
again, not advice. Don't cheat, but
as a man, I can step into more easily step into the position of a man receiving that news or hearing that. I do think, yeah, the sex wasn't good, kind of disarms, and everything.
right.
And then I think if I was in that position, of course I'd be upset. But if somebody said, well, yeah, it was because I felt some love from them that I haven't felt from you in a while, but the sex wasn't even good and I regret doing it, that would put me in a mode of like, okay, there's something I can work on here.
It's an instant diffuser. It's an instant diffuser. Yeah. I was thinking about that too. Like, what if I was in the situation? And I was like, wow, that genuinely would like just drop the level of emotion from extreme down quite a bit.
You'd still be upset. You'd still be hurt, but you would start thinking about how can if the relationship continues, how can I be better so this doesn't have to happen again or something like that. It's
like top-notch A-grade manipulation 101. It's outstanding. Yeah. Let's make this their problem.
Yeah, this is the woman's fault.
Again, not advice. Don't do that. Stay faithful.
Actually, I'll go as far as to say the advice is don't cheat on your partner.
Right. Yeah. Actually, yeah. We are giving advice. Don't cheat on your partner. But if you do,
if you feel the need to cheat on your partner, just break up with them.
Right. So we'll end it on that very good advice.
That's why you come here.
That's why you come here. You come here for the knowledgeable. We were just talking about at the beginning of this episode, having a parochial mindset, bad. Be philosophical, think outside the box, expand your consciousness, and apply that to how you can get out of cheating on your partner. We'll see you next week.
See ya.